Hi, this is Daryl. Now, I've been in the board gaming hobby for a number of years, and over the years I've picked up some tips. Tips about how to take care of your games, how to repair them. There are tips maybe to some longtime hobbyists, these things will be pretty obvious, but I just want to share them just in case you don't know about them. So here's a few tips for taking care of your board games. Okay, so you buy a new game that has these little plastic miniatures, and some of them sometimes can be bent right out of the box. Solving this is actually pretty easy. All you need is a glass of hot water. Now, I usually use boiling water. It doesn't have to be boiling, but as hot as possible. And usually I use some chopsticks and simply submerge the mini in the hot water. I didn't speed that up, that's in real time. It can fix itself that fast. What I've basically done is reset the miniature to its original position, but you'll notice it's a little wobbly. The plastic is very soft and mutable right now. Just let that dry and you're good to go. I own a restaurant and I have board games in the restaurant. And as you might imagine, sometimes the boards will get some stains on them. Most stains are actually pretty easy to remove, I've found, and I'll show you how I do it. There's a stain on this board, this came from the restaurant. I'll show you my technique. All you need is some paper towels, and some all-purpose cleaner. This one has bleach. I don't recommend that. At the very least, there's going to be a bit of a smell to it. Now what you're going to do is you're going to take one dry paper towel, keep it handy. You're going to take a second paper towel, and you're going to wet it with the all-purpose cleaner. You're going to want it quite wet, just spray all over that sheet, but you don't want it dripping wet. So what you're going to do is you're going to squeeze it out until it's no longer dripping. So it's just damp with the cleaner, but it's not dripping wet. And then you're going to wipe the board, and then after wiping it for a couple of strokes, immediately dry it with the dry paper towel so the moisture doesn't have a chance to set in. And you're going to repeat that a couple times until the stain is gone. Not terribly impressive yet, is it? Let's give it a second try. There you go. Now it's completely gone. I find this works with all but the most stubborn of stains, and it'll work on boards, it'll work on cardboard boxes, and playing cards as well. Only thing is rule books doesn't really work very well on. Now, if you're doing a stain on the edge of the board, you want to be a little more careful. After you wipe the stain, when you dry it, dry around the edge of the board because the moisture might have had an opportunity to kind of go around the edge. So if you only dry where you touched it, then you might not get all the moisture. So torn box top, that's pretty common. You see the corners are torn there, but you can actually glue them back together relatively easily with scrapbooking glue. Now I use Scotch brand. It comes in a package, it looks like this, so you have a spare. And what you'll want to do is, this one has a glue pen, so you want to use a glue pen. It's just clear, and you glue along one edge of where it's torn. You don't want to do the other edge, the opposite edge, because it'll just make it too messy and wet. But just try to get along the whole edge there where possible. And then after you're done, just push the edges together and hold them in place. If you really want to do a professional job, you could probably use a vise of some sort, but I usually just hold it. Now, this glue says it takes about 5 minutes to set. I find it doesn't need all that time, but the longer the better. So I didn't time that, but that was probably about 3 minutes. And after a few minutes, if it's still holding its shape, you don't have to hold it for the rest of the time. You can just let it sit. And you know what? It's not perfect. It's not good as new, but it will hold its shape. And it's can be kind of surprisingly strong. You can see it's holding together pretty well. So you bought a new game, you take the board out, and it doesn't lay flat. Right, I mean, that's not a huge deal, but you know, you want to flatten it in a way that doesn't damage it. Now, some people might worry about backbending being taking a board and just bending it the opposite way that it should. Not really a problem. I'll show you how to do it. So you want to flatten the board and then hold one side of the board and just hold it with your fingers as close to the edge as possible. And you want to keep one half of the board flat against the table. And now on the other side, you're going to backbend, you're going to lift it up, but here's the thing, you don't want to bend it too much. So what you do is you just lift it up a little bit, maybe just an inch or two off the table, and then immediately put it back down. And what you're doing is you're just trying to get a sense of the tension. So just do this, just a little bit of trying it and seeing how much tension there is. And you don't want to go very far past the tension. So lift it up off the table until you feel kind of that tension there, and then put it back down. And with practice, you can just do it really quickly, and just a few little swipes, you can kind of pull it up. And of course, if it's a quad fold board, then you'll need to flip the board over and do it with a few different fold edges. But you know what? I've rarely had a problem doing this. I don't think I've broken a board yet. The only situation that I would probably not recommend backbending is if the board is very thick, in particular if it's a 2-layer board. You know, some games like Sushi Go Party, for example, you want to be very careful backbending that. You may not even want to backbend it. Those are the only boards I have a problem with. If it's a normal width board, backbending, you know, with restraint is not a problem at all. Thanks for watching. I hope these tips have been helpful to you. Take care.